Welcome back, everyone. This is the Schaefer Stock Market Podcast. I am Josh Selway. I'm an editor at Schaefer's Investment Research, and I'm recording this podcast on Friday, March 22nd, 2019. I just wanted to say, if you hear a little background noise during this podcast, I just changed offices a little closer to the street, so you may hear some cars driving by. But I know you guys are all really nice. You're going to forgive me. And we keep it pretty laid back and informal here anyways. So I'm not too worried about it. And especially because this episode is entirely about video games. And for good reason. There have been a lot of big announcements in the video game business in recent weeks. And we're going to hit it all here today in this episode to make sure you're caught up and know what's going on in the fast-growing space of video games. I guess I should say real quick, as we've talked about on like the past 10 podcasts, the fears about the global economy, they continue to pick up. There's been some dreary economic data coming out of Europe, and that is weighing on markets today. And you just had the Fed pull back on its tightening because fears of a global slowdown. So it's real, it's hitting stocks. Just wanted to touch on that real quick before moving on to video games. So let's start with the big news of the week. And this was Google's announcement of its video game streaming platform, Stadia. And this is something that has been suspected to be coming for a while now. There's been a lot of talk about these tech companies working on video game streaming platforms. And I didn't realize that Google was ready to make this type of announcement already. They came out with Stadia this week. There's a hype video, if you will, that you can find online that presents Google's outlook in this space. And basically their angle was people have been playing games for years and years. They've evolved to these high-tech video games that we have now, and it's bringing people together. There's a community in online video games, and it's really have strong communities, these gamers, and that's the angle that Google is playing up. So right now for Stadia, how it's going to work to begin with is you just have a TV and a browser on your phone or computer, whatever it is, and you just need Google's Chrome browser, and you can play video games on there as long as it's over a Wi-Fi connection. Now the goal here is that once 5G begins rolling out in the next few years, and 5G is supposed to be this unimaginable game changer that brings new speeds to the internet on your mobile phone, and it's going to be good for connected cars, all these types of things, and that's going to be the real game changer for something like this in video game streaming, because obviously you need a lot of bandwidth, a lot of computing power to play games in real time, and right now that's sort of lacking. You need that Wi-Fi connection to use Stadia, but Google is laying the groundwork for now so that when 5G is fully available, it's going to be ready to go. So as another part of this, Google is going to be developing its own games. It will bring in other games that others have created on the platform, but it will be creating its own games as well. Now, we didn't get any details about pricing just yet, but the company said that more details will be coming out during the summer. But we do know that Stadia will be launching in the US, Canada, the UK, and the rest of Europe later this year. And it's just interesting to me, as someone who's always played video games, how this is changing so quickly, and it's so obvious that this is what's going to happen. Now you get these consoles, you put them in your living room, and as the internet speeds improve, 5G comes out, and there's a shift to even mobile gaming, which is becoming more popular, and we're going to talk about in a second that this is just logical, and it's happening quickly. So it's good to see this new technology coming out, and it's nice that these tech companies just picked it up and ran with it like they're doing now. Also coming out later this year will be Call of Duty Mobile. That'll be from obviously Activision Blizzard, who makes Call of Duty, and they're teaming up with Tencent. That is the Chinese tech giant. This will be a free to play version of Call of Duty, and that'll be on both iOS and Android. It'll feature a number of different game types and a lot of popular maps from the game series, kind of bringing it all together and putting it right on people's mobile devices so they can play anywhere they go. Now, what's sort of confusing is that there were already reports that Activision Blizzard was already working on a Call of Duty mobile game, and so what it appears like this could be a separate project. I don't know if there will be two different games, if they went away from the previous project or what, but they bought the company that makes Candy Crush. If you remember that game, it still could be around. I'm honestly not sure if people still play Candy Crush, but the developer of that game, it was called King, the company that makes Candy Crush. Activision Blizzard bought them, and the rumor was that they were going to be working on a mobile version of Call of Duty then, so I'm not sure if they've shifted their focus or if they're going to have two separate projects going forward. But again, Call of Duty Mobile is coming out later this year. This is something that Nintendo had been working on, bringing their games to mobile and really trying to take advantage of the fact that more and more people were playing games on their mobile devices. You saw Nintendo team up with Apple a while back and bring certain Mario games to smartphones. So this is just part of that ongoing trend where the gaming industry is trying to get a bigger foothold in the mobile market. One piece of news that may not have generated as much buzz as the first two stories I talked about was Nvidia teaming up with Japan's SoftBank to deploy cloud gaming servers in Japan and Korea later this year. So again, all this is happening, everything I've been talking about is happening this year. It's happening quickly, and companies are rolling out this technology in very quick fashion. And for Nvidia, so Google's streaming platform is being powered by cloud technology, and this is what Nvidia is teaming up with SoftBank for here, where Nvidia's chips will be powering the servers that will allow people to play video games through the cloud. And again, I already mentioned 5G, but I guess the plan here is to put this technology in place for SoftBank to allow customers to stream games using just 5G networks when that technology begins to roll out in the years ahead. Electronic Arts continues to generate buzz as well. This week, the company released its first Battle Pass, and that is for its immensely popular Apex Legends game. This features new updates such as a new character, among other things. And right after the company was preparing to release this update, Morgan Stanley weighed in and lifted its price target for EA stock, and it estimated that Apex Legends will bring in $375 million in live services revenue for the fiscal year 2020. Again, remember, Apex Legends is one of these games that are free to play, but players pay to get all these in-game perks and other things. And part of Morgan Stanley's estimate is that there will be an average of 25 million monthly players on Apex Legends over the next fiscal year. And speaking of Apex Legends, we just got data out of Super Data, which is a part of Nielsen, who has all the TV viewing numbers. And Super Data said that Apex Legends made $92 million in February. That was its first month out there, and according to Super Data, that was the best launch month of any free-to-play game in history. So obviously things are really rolling for Apex Legends and Electronic Arts, but Electronic Arts also just released the first trailer for its Battlefield 5 video game, which is calling Firestorm, and which will feature the popular Battle Royale game mode that has made Fortnite and Call of Duty and other games, Apex Legends, so popular. So what's really startling about this is that just a few podcasts ago, I talked about Electronic Arts' quarterly report, and in their quarterly report, the executives were talking about how they sort of missed the boat on this Battle Royale craze, and just like that, it's like they flipped the switch, and now they're cranking it out, and that just sort of shows how fluid the video game industry is right now, and how much these companies are battling for players' attention. And one thing that analysts look at a lot, and I don't know if anyone out there, how familiar people are with Twitch, but Twitch, which is owned by Amazon, is a streaming platform where players will stream their gameplay throughout the game. And I've hopped on there a couple times this week in preparation of this podcast, and some of these kids are getting like 900 views at one time, people watching at one time, and their videos get hundreds of thousands of views. So analysts check out which games are getting the most views and sort of use that to gauge the popularity of these different games. But again, it's important to remember, because Amazon is in so many different things, it's important to remember that Amazon owns Twitch, and Twitch is very much gaining in popularity more and more. And as more people play video games and stream video games, you'd only imagine that's better and better for Twitch and then Amazon. So if this trend is something that sounds attractive to you, if you believe in its long-term prospects, there's no better name to talk about right now than Super League Gaming. That's ticker SLGG. I just discovered this company. I don't know how I missed it. It's just started publicly trading in recent months, and essentially, this is a company that helps amateur gamers join tournaments and communities around the country. It's in a bunch of different cities now. So that's definitely a name to watch, and it popped up on our radar because a brokerage firm, specifically Northland Capital, began coverage on Super League Gaming with an outperform rating and $15 price target, which right now Super League Gaming is trading just around $7 per share. So Northland Capital sees a lot of upside ahead for that company. So again, Super League Gaming, and just like Northland Capital wrote in its note, it's the first mover in a potentially massive market, and there's definitely reason to believe that there's a lot of upside ahead for this company if it can execute. I don't know much about its leadership or financials or anything. Still pretty small company compared to others, but again, it just went public in February around $11 per share. So absolutely a name to watch if you're interested in this space, and it'll be interesting to see if it'll draw some new competitors to the public markets as well. And I wanted to touch on headset maker Turtle Beach, ticker HEAR. This was a stock that I talked about a lot last year because it had one of these once-in-a-lifetime moves where it was just sort of laying around $2 per share, hovering there for a while, basically forgotten about, and then this Fortnite craze picks up and the stock just skyrockets in a matter of months all the way up to $34 per share, because these battle royale games are based on hearing, and gamers need good headphones to be able to play them. I know a lot of people go through multiple sets of headphones, and these things are sort of pricey, so it's really been driving sales for Turtle Beach, and the stock price exploded in 2018, but since then it's been grinding lower. And in fact, the company just reported earnings, and Wall Street punished the shares, and right now they're pacing for almost their lowest close in nearly a year. So Turtle Beach certainly has fallen out of favor. We'll see if it can regain its footing here, but again, if you just pull up that chart for Turtle Beach, ticker HEAR, you'll see that it's broken down, and we even had some analysts last year rushed in to raise their targets on Turtle Beach, and now they're adjusting it to the downside. So definitely a volatile stock, and one to watch going forward if you are interested in speculating. While I could drone on and on for potentially hours about video games, I'm going to leave it right there for this week on the Schaefer's Stock Market Podcast. Hopefully this gives you a good place to start if you're new to the video game industry or sort of behind on this trend, but it's definitely one that's growing in popularity in an exponential way. So hopefully I gave you a good starting point here, and next week we'll get back to the broader market stuff and cover a bunch of different names. But until then, head over to schaefersresearch.com to check out everything we're writing about. We have an education section that's very helpful to a lot of people, or check out our free newsletters, including Todd Salamone's Monday Morning Outlook, one of the best things you could read on Wall Street every single week. Until next week, though, this was Josh Selway with Schaefer's Investment Research. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.